I want to provide some interesting facts about one of my favorite Christmas movies, which is It's a Wonderful Life. And many of you know this film. I'm assuming maybe more than any other film, it seems to be one that many people circle around. This is a story about an angel who comes from heaven to help a desperate businessman who is in the midst of a financial struggle, wondering about whether he should go on living his life. When this film first came out in 1947, it was a flop. But today, it's one of the favorites of many people. And the American Film Institute identified it as the #1 most inspiring film of all time. Not just of Christmas movies, but of all time. And the villain, Potter, who's a banker, is, according to the American Film Institute, the #6 greatest villain. And George is the #9 greatest hero of all time in movie history. Right? So what inspired this turnaround of events? Well, the story goes like this. It was originally inspired by a short story called The Greatest Gift by Philip Van Doren Stern. And it's inspired by Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, loosely. The author had trouble getting this book published, so he sent it around to his friends in Christmas cards. It landed on the desk of a film producer, then it landed on the desk of Frank Capra, who is a movie director, who took up this project, and in the summer of 1946, shot It's a Wonderful Life, and released it. And again, it didn't receive the accolades or the economic benefits it might have expected, or we might expect, but rather, the year it was released, the FBI issued a memo about it. The Hollywood film industry in general was under investigation for its, quote, obviously communistic propaganda, and it said in this memo, there's been a communist infiltration of the motion picture industry. It was a general investigation. It's a Wonderful Life made special mention. In the memo, they cite the, quote, rather obvious attempts to discredit bankers by casting Lionel Bartmore as a Scrooge type. Even noting that making villains into bankers into villains is a, quote, common trick used by communists. The memo is still available online. This is just an excerpt. It's kind of fascinating to dig into that. And many people today don't think this film is openly communistic, but there are many people that believe it has Christian ideas, it firmly embedded in the plot. The protagonist, for example, George, frequently asks, what good is one life? In a way that echoes the author of the book of Ecclesiastes that writes, most fortunate of all are those who are not yet born, for they have not seen all the evil that is done under the sun. At the same time, there's a kind of Christian optimism that finds its way into the conclusion of this movie, where George, after questioning his life, fully embraces the joy of his family and his friends with love and grace and redemption on full display. The other element here is the conclusion shows an angel getting his wings, which is not really a biblical thing. Okay, but we can work with that. So it's a gesture, though, right? It's a gesture toward heavenward, towards the divine assistance that's there for us, even amidst our mundane struggles, our financial struggles, and a messenger is sent to help George through this story of redemption that inspires us still today. And Frank Capra's sentimentality towards hope is there from the start, but especially in the conclusion. If you didn't know, the first time he was thinking about making this film, he wrote the script. And in this script, he had an alternative ending. And in that ending, George got to his knees, put his hands in prayer, and said the Lord's Prayer. Very openly, very directly. And they changed it in a way that still tries to honor that in more subtle ways. And I'll talk more about the conclusion later in the talk. But it does inspire certain things like this. This is a study guide to It's a Wonderful Life, a 5-week small group study. You know, you can start a week before Advent and go week by week not getting enough of this after 5 weeks, right? Really digging deep. It's a biblical study guide and digging at those Christian themes. And so that can be done with films like It's a Wonderful Life. What exactly accounts for this turnaround success? It's not the movement from the communistic to the biblical approach, but actually what happened was in the 1970s, there was a clerical error that resulted in It's a Wonderful Life not getting its copyright renewed. So they could sell it on VHS, they could sell it on DVD, it could go on every television station, everyone watched and rewatched, it's free, right? And so one thing led to another, everyone's watching it, talking about it, recommending it, and here we stand today, right? Where it's cemented in the Christmas canon, as it were. So it's not the Christmas miracle you might expect.